Right now, thousands of medical students are memorizing the foregut, midgut, and hindgut. And almost all of them are doing it backwards in their mind. Not because the topic is difficult, but because they were never shown the single embryological folding logic that creates the entire gastrointestinal system. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The gut you see in anatomy today did not start as separate organs. It began as a simple tube that folded, rotated, and partitioned itself like a developing city building districts before the city even exists. So the real question is not what comes from where. The real question is, why does the body assign different organs to different zones of a single embryological tube? Because once you see that logic, foregut, midgut, and hindgut stop being a list and start becoming a predictable map you can reconstruct under exam pressure. And in the next few minutes, I'm not going to help you memorize GI derivatives. I'm going to show you how to rebuild the entire gut from embryology like a system designer. By the end of this series, you will not just recall GI derivatives, you will predict them. We will move through the embryological tube concept that starts everything: the foregut, the upper control system of digestion, the midgut, the rapidly expanding rotating core, the hindgut, the final drainage and storage system, and finally, how all of this becomes a favorite exam trap. So if SMA versus celiac versus IMA has ever felt like random memorization, that confusion ends here. Before we go further, if you find this way of learning medicine different from memorization, make sure you stay connected to this series, because what we are building here is not revision, it is clinical thinking. Now let's start from the foundation that everything depends on. Before we talk about stomachs, esophagus, liver, or pancreas, we need to erase the modern anatomy picture from your mind. Because in early development, there are no organs. There is only one continuous structure, the primitive gut tube, and this tube is not uniform. It is not functionally identical along its length. Instead, embryology immediately organizes it into 3 zones, not by shape, but by blood supply architecture. The foregut is the first of these zones. And here's the hidden principle most students never realize. The embryo does not build organs first, it builds vascular territories first, and organs develop inside them. So the foregut is defined by one critical structure, the celiac trunk. This artery becomes the life supply line for everything that will form in this region. So the foregut is not just anatomy, it is a vascularly isolated developmental district. And once you understand that, every organ in this region suddenly makes sense as a coordinated system, not a random collection. The foregut is the cranial portion of the primitive gut tube extending from the pharyngeal end down to the upper part of the duodenum. But instead of thinking of it as a region, think of it as a functional command center of early digestion. Because everything here shares 3 critical embryological features: common arterial supply through the celiac trunk, common autonomic control dominated by vagal parasympathetic innervation, and coordinated developmental timing. So the foregut behaves like a synchronized digestive module, not isolated organs. The esophagus forms as the cranial tube elongates and separates from the respiratory diverticulum. So embryologically, it is not just a conduit, it is the first passageway establishing directional flow from pharynx to stomach. The stomach is not just formed, it is rotated and reshaped. The primitive foregut tube expands and undergoes rotation, creating the greater curvature, lesser curvature, and positional asymmetry. So the stomach is essentially a mechanically engineered expansion chamber optimized for mixing and storage. Now the foregut transitions into midgut territory, but not abruptly. The proximal duodenum still belongs to foregut because embryologically it remains under foregut vascular influence and proximal developmental control. The liver arises as a hepatic diverticulum from the foregut endoderm. This outgrowth invades surrounding mesenchyme and differentiates into hepatic tissue and biliary structures. So the liver is not just a metabolic organ, it is a foregut endodermal expansion into mesenchymal territory. The gallbladder develops as a secondary bud from the hepatic diverticulum, so it functions as a storage offshoot of a foregut-derived processing system. The pancreas develops from dorsal and ventral buds that later fuse due to gut rotation. So the pancreas is a fusion organ created by embryological movement and repositioning. Foregut structures refer pain to the epigastric region. So conditions like peptic ulcer disease, gastritis, and gallbladder pathology converge into a single pain zone because visceral afferents follow embryological origin, not anatomical position. If symptoms worsen after eating, think foregut activation pathology first, because this region is designed for early chemical digestion and enzymatic processing. What we have learned is not a list of organs. We have reconstructed a vascularly defined embryological zone governed by celiac supply that forms a coordinated upper digestive unit. And this same logic will continue into the midgut, where the intestine undergoes rotation, herniation, and repositioning, and into the hindgut, where elimination and storage systems are finalized. In the next video, we enter the midgut, the most dynamic transformation in the entire gastrointestinal tract. If this foregut system is starting to make sense, you are already thinking differently from memorization. Stay precise, keep sharpening your knowledge. I'll see you in the next deep dive. Elite Medic Nexus, where precision sharpens knowledge.